am.
Yep.
We worked out that we couldn't do this live.
Yeah, I mean, it would be lovely to live stream the podcast,
I'm just not consistently... I don't have consistent weeks, that's the problem.
You don't have consistent weeks, and also, when you're in the flow of a podcast and you've kind of got, like, well, I say we've got talking points. I have my talking points, and you are very good at kind of spitballing stuff, but when you're in the flow of things... we felt that like a live stream with people interacting, but also some people sub, some people donate and do all those lovely things.
You're saying I'm good at chatting shit?
Oh yeah, you're
okay.
100% great at chatting shit.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to not acknowledge the people who may do that when we're in the middle of like our conversations.
Maybe in
about
the future.
Whatever we're talking about.
We'll see how it goes.
What we could do in the future is like special one-offs where we do like a celebratory like live stream in the moment where it's
when we
maybe,
get past 20 episodes.
I think that's a little early. I was going to say like 50.
50?
Yeah.
You think we'll make it?
I think, well, do you know what number episode this is?
I have no idea.
I'm asking you because I don't think I know.
It's like
I think this is
7 or
5. No, we're not there yet.
No?
Oh my god.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, I should probably keep a count on that.
So we're talking about AI today.
What a fun topic.
I can never say the word existential crisis of
I'm just going to make it daylight outside.
Oh, so I wondered what you were doing then. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I use AI all the time. And
I think this will be an interesting
Yeah.
conversation because you use it a lot for work things,
Everything.
admin stuff.
Everything.
And I don't really use it for a lot of stuff at all, and I'm more kind of purist around the whole thing. But I guess, yeah, why don't you tell us how you use AI in a day-to-day sense?
Okay, here's the big thing. I have terrible short-term memory.
Yeah.
So I don't remember anything. I barely remember what we started speaking about 2 minutes ago.
Do you remember what?
That's why I can't remember what episode
Do you remember
we're
what
on.
I bought for dinner?
No.
No, okay.
Right. So
Yeah,
I
that's
like
good.
AI
Yeah.
because I can just like use it to take notes about things I'm thinking about right now.
Yeah.
And then I can go back later and see that chat and be like, oh yeah, I've got to do that. And then I'll chat with the chat back. So I like just a stream of consciousness. And
It's
I'm like,
a way to organise your thoughts in a way where you can actually...
some would say a notebook would probably do the same thing. But
Probably,
But
yeah.
but also my handwriting is awful. So, you know, and my notes just don't make any sense. And I think I've trained my AI account now to understand the gibberish that I put into it.
Right.
So now I'm just like, I'll just throw a load of stuff at it and it'll be like, I know what to do. And then it'll organise it all.
So is it more kind of like organising, kind of like an assistant where like doing the really menial kind of admin-y tasks that you don't want to do? Is that the majority
Yeah, I use it for that. I don't really use it to write an email. Or like, what I'll do is I will sometimes get it to write an email, but then I will heavily edit it personally.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the way it don't sound like how I type.
No.
Right?
No.
And I've tried to make it sound like that, and it don't do it.
No.
So I will use it to like format it properly.
Okay,
And
yeah.
grammar and spelling and all that. You know,
That's
I'm like
fair.
heavily dyslexic, so
Well,
it helps from that side.
This is what I'm saying. Like, I think I think the application of say ChatGPT is really helpful for you and other people in that instance where you know it's little tasks like that maybe anybody else might not even think about, but
Yeah.
it's actually really, really helpful, and it means it's one less hurdle for you to jump over in your day.
Yeah.
But I was thinking like the other day about how like other ways that it could be helpful in that respect, and it made me think about like volunteer work and like charities and stuff.
Okay.
And the amount of time and the amount of money that they don't really have to like give to people who are helping, because it all needs to go into the charity, right? Like ChatGPT or like AI tools for charities to handle like tasks and stuff takes the burden off of the volunteers, I suppose.
Yeah,
as long as it's
depends what it
monitored.
is,
I don't
yeah.
know.
But
Like,
then if it's monitored, it still needs human interaction.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's great because it tackles my worst enemy, which is spelling.
yeah.
So that's kind of why I like AI.
Yeah, I mean-
sometimes I'll just be like, spell this right for me, because okay. So you need to understand, because I know spell checkers have been around for a long time, right?
Yeah.
My spelling is so bad, the spell checker don't know what word I'm trying to say. right? Because you can right click. It's like it lights up red. It's like this ain't a word, right? You right click. I do that, no results, and I'm like, oh. So then I'll Google that. That's what I used to do. I used to get the word, I used to Google it, and then Google would sort of be like, oh, we think you mean this.
Yeah.
But I found with AI, it's just because I think because it understands the context of the words.
Yes.
It can work that out. Whereas a spell checker is literally looking at that single word in a context and going, no, we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The amount of, I give you a really simple word that I can't spell, and I've never been able to spell it, in minute.
Minute.
I cannot spell minute.
Okay.
Cloth.
Cloth. Okay.
Don't get me started on cloth.
Is it like the TH of it?
I don't know. Every time I try and write it out, it don't work.
Yeah. I think everybody gets a little bit of that.
There's some of them, but there's a lot. The list is many.
Sometimes.
It's like when we play Boggle, I always
When
miss.
we play Boggle. The one time we played Boggle.
we've played Boggle recently.
You got it for me for Christmas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say we haven't played it recently.
I mean, yeah, but once.
Yeah, it's still
when we play
Boggle. Yeah. Yeah, you won every time.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot. I'm like putting words down. You're like, what's that? And I'm like, oh.
Thanks for playing with me.
Yeah, great. Yeah. I know I'm going to lose going in. Yeah, I think for me it's great for that. But I use it for loads of things. Not just the spelling and that. I will use it. I've built quite a few AI tools for businesses. Like, I have one that I've made that, there's a company that gets a lot of sales and has a lot of inquiries for sales and a manual.
Yeah.
And I helped them for a while, replying to those emails, and I was like, this is a waste of time. So many emails coming in, and a lot of them are time wasters.
Yeah.
So I built an AI agent that basically reads the email and just filters out the shit.
Right.
And then also gives a score based off which ones we think are real.
Right.
And so I built a big prompt that basically generates that, but it does things like it from just the message they send, it works out the category of product and it ties that to a salesperson.
Yeah.
So if there's a specific person who sells a specific product and someone messages, it just they don't have to fill a form in and say, I'm interested in this.
Yeah.
They can say multiple things and it will go off to the multiple people who are interested in that product. So
Because in that instance, it's not like that tool is taken away from anybody's job. It's making everybody's job, whose it is to handle, just more efficient. So they don't have to deal with the time wasters, and what they're doing can be like more effective.
Yeah, I just think the problem is that if more people build a tool like that, I mean, I heavily tested it to make sure that no time wasters were potential leads.
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem, is you're eventually going to get to the point where you have to be so crafty on the way you message to even get to the right person, because you're being filtered by an AI that you can't see.
Yeah.
So that is the only, I guess, the downside to it. I mean, if everyone does what I did and really, really tries all kind of different methods, but I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a tool that you can buy that does that already, but I just built one.
I think one of my fears is like that trust factor. In general, the majority of like the general public, you'd hope understand now that like going through any kind of communication to get to any kind of business or to communicate with anyone, you're more than likely going to come up against like an AI filter of some kind. Like, it's not like beforehand, like people weren't already used to like sitting on like
with this chatbot, like simplified chatbot.
Yeah,
they're not
like,
AI, but they're chatbots that, like, if you spam, like one I always do, if you're trying to call a company and you can't get hold of someone, it's a robot. You just spam start and hash and just keep spamming it, and you'll hear the robot go like and then it will just ring someone and you get hold of someone.
The robot's like, fuck this.
Yeah, it's like, I can't handle this, and then they just stick you through to a person. So there's all these kind of little tricks that I think over time people will figure out on getting through the filters if you really want to. But
if these tools are become more efficient, I guess another fear that a lot of people have is like, where's the line drawn? Like, where is it like just a tool, or where is it? At what point is it like, oh, okay, well, actually, this could just absorb that person's job? That's the fear of it. Yeah,
I think what I like the advantage of with an AI is, let's say you were building an app that worked for a finance department and it reads all the data on an invoice. Yeah. Right? For example, right? So you would need I guess some kind of image if you were building it pre-AI, right? A piece of software that reads that doc and there's an email address, and people send their invoices in and then it spits it out to an Excel doc, right? And it line by line what the invoice was, all the information you need, right? You would need some image recognition software or something for the invoice, right? And then you'd have to worry about PDF, you'd have to worry about all the different
output,
types. Yeah, it could be just come through the email itself. It could be an attachment. There's all these things you've got to solve. So if you're making an application that did that, whereas now with AI, the AI itself, you can get it to do all those tasks. So instead of you needing a load of tools or a load of code to do those tools, now you can just be like, look at this inbox. Whenever an email comes in, see if it has an attachment. If it has an attachment, read the attachment, and then update this Excel sheet.
Yeah.
So instead of you having to build all these tools, you can basically just make the AI do the tool.
Yeah.
And I think that is like the big powerful thing about it, as in to save people time, because when you look at businesses and people's time, they spend their time doing all the admin work. A lot of the time it's admin work. Like I have say it's a finance department doing that, right? And I've got someone whose job is just to go through invoices all day, right? If you are in that, if you know anyone who is in that world, the real work is not in sat there finding the invoices. The real work is when the numbers don't match and you have to manually go and find the invoice, right? So if you can take that person's job who had to do 90% of the time going and just inputting invoices, and then the 10% of the time, which is actually the hardest work for them, is... But they only can spend 10% of the time because they're dealing with the 9% or whatever the percentage is. And instead you go, right now, all you have to do is find the difficult ones because this is all automated. I think that is the way that you make things simpler and easier. Yeah, I think people will lose some work. As in, because you won't need as many the admin tasks, but the skilled work will still be needed because you can't. I don't think an AI, at least anytime soon,
it's the skill and it's those tasks that just require like a manual look through and like an actual human being with a brain to sit there and be like, well, it did this wrong because or
they have to go and speak to someone else who sits on the desk next to them and ask them a question about this one, right? The AI isn't going to do that, not yet. Because it can't do that yet.
You know what I want? I want, one of those like hoovers that you sit on the floor. I want one of those, but with like some kind of AI, so I can just be like, look, just do my shit for me, so I don't have to worry about it.
Clean my house, and also, can you write this email for me? And it's doing both things, and it's just rolling around going, and he's emailing for you.
I mean, that too, I guess. But when I think of like what I don't like, the stuff that I don't want to do, I'm like, can I get it to do that yet? No, I can't.
No.
Not yet. Unless it's just like your standard robot, like Hoover or I don't know. But I found it for what I do, I found it like really helpful, like you say, for like admin tasks that I don't really want to have to put all of my time into, because I want to be sat writing songs or being creative or like video editing or whatever it is I'm doing. So like stuff like making spreadsheets for information that I need, or like locations or venues or anything like that, it's really handy for kind of getting a starting point. For that.
Just be like.
Otherwise, like my least favorite thing in the world, I'm sorry to say, is a spreadsheet. I just like I don't.
Is that your biggest enemy?
I wouldn't say it's my biggest enemy, but like I would rather do anything else in the world than have to sit in Excel. I can use it. I just don't want to.
But I kind of feel like, do you use any of the formulas in Excel?
Only since you've taught me how to sum things up and things. I used to use it to make things look pretty. Okay, but that's it.
So that's what it's really for.
Yeah,
and you're just using it to type numbers in.
It's for efficiency.
How often are you typing in Excel? But I tell you what. On the topic of Excel, have you seen there's an Excel World Championships?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is the thing. So if you don't know about it, Google it. It's they give you a task and then you have to basically solve the problem as fast as you can.
Do you think you have the proficiency
I'm nowhere near.
To enter?
I'm nowhere near. No.
Okay.
I am like...
But they're quite quirky tasks, right?
Well, it's like loads of data and then... So my understanding is, because I have watched one live before...
yes.
Yeah.
Of course you have.
Yeah. So my understanding is, from what I remember, it's been a while, is that you basically they have a load of like company data, and then they have 50 questions, and basically you have to answer those 50 questions as quick as possible.
Okay.
But basically, the way they work is they read the 50 questions and then they build formulas that basically are going to auto answer all them. So when they press the one button, all 50 questions get answered at the same time.
Right.
And so they have to develop these crazy formulas to basically like do it. But it's like a speed run Excel.
I suppose in a way
data.
it's like building an efficient version of an AI in a way.
I think they're just clever people.
Yeah.
And they love Excel. I actually, I bought someone who was really into Excel a mug once that said, it was like an Excel pun. I can't remember it. It was really funny, but I can't remember it.
Well, if Excel is your thing.
Oh, I'm excellent at my job.
Yeah.
I know my sheet. That was it.
I like
I was like,
it.
it's really good. Got it for an accountant.
What do you think of like AI more on the creative side and away from the admin-y side? The kind of creative sector of things.
Oh,
and
controversial.
Yeah, and where AI sits at the moment. I mean, it's always really been, in terms of like music, it's kind of sat in the background. Like, you've got AI in certain plugins and software that we've all used for years. But in terms of like where I draw the line, and this isn't the same for every music creator, because I think I'm all about embracing new tech, but in terms of like actually writing a song or that creative strand of things, that's where I'm a purist, and I'm like, no, that needs to be a direct line from you, the person who's coming from lived experience, rather than, any kind of. I mean, I know that AI can kind of generate different kind of prompts, or it can be kind of like used as an inspiration tool, which I don't think is a huge problem. But in terms of like the writing of the musicality of things, the lyrics, like the concept, it needs to come from you.
I think there's a few things. Well, before we get into that, on the topic of controversy, I have a pro tip that a friend told me that I'm going to save for the After Dark section. It's kind of like grey area AI tip.
Okay.
So if you listen to the After Dark section on Patreon, I'll give you that tip. Remind me to talk about it.
For anybody new listening, we do an extra 10-minute bonus After Dark pod after this with juicy bits.
Yeah, I'll give you that, because I don't think I should be saying it in general, because I think it's quite controversial.
Okay.
So on that, okay, and I think the thing with music is, it's a difficult one, because obviously creative is you've got an artist who creates something, and the AI is using obviously it's like a pastiche in a way. It's listening to lots of versions of songs. So when you say make me a rock song, it's going to make the most generic rock song it can. You can be more specific, only if I had the test data to start with, right? I think as someone who has worked in music production for a very long time, I kind of welcome it doing some of the work for me, because some of it can, like, there's bits that you need to be really creative. But to be honest, I find the creative bit is listening to the track and going, what is missing? How do I fix something that sits in this space or is missing? But actually, if I was like, I need a piano that rolls on these chords, and I need it in this kind of tone, and I could just type that in and it just gave me it at this BPM, and it just gave me it.
Yeah.
I'd probably use a tool like that to speed up my process.
If you were in the room with me, you'd turn around to me and ask me to do that.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Because I'm like, I've done it so many times, Emma. Can you do it for me? So that's why I'm saying I'll do it pass it to the AI, right?
Well, no, pass it to the musician.
Yeah. But if I'm on my own and I'm working on a track, right, and I'm like, I gotta time it again. Yeah. I was like, you know what?
Because what not a lot of people understand is like producers release music who won't necessarily. There are producers out there that don't necessarily think of themselves as a musician first. They're a producer first, and perhaps they're in a position where they're not within a community where there's immediate musicians around them. Perhaps they're working on an idea that, like you say, if you don't have anyone in the room with you, maybe having that as an accessible tool for inspiration or for input there, is that where people are finding it helpful?
It's not even that. It's that I kind of have done it so many times I don't want to.
Right. So there's a fatigue thing.
It's a fatigue thing. As in, I would rather spend more time on the actual heavy creative things that are complicated than the really menial tasks, like make me a bed of a keyboard that does XXX. Like I could sit there and I could go through a load of sounds, and I could sit there and play with the chords in, or I could just type in what I wanted, and then it gives me it at the right BPM, and I'm like, great, there's a bass layer to start with. Now let's build everything on top, and I might replace it later. Yeah. But just to get things started, I think
if you're building out a demo, right, and you've got like musicians coming in, you can be like, look, this is my idea. I think it's a great way to present an idea that somebody might have if they're not a musician themselves.
Yeah.
Not that you are absolutely a musician, you can play all the things, but it's interesting what you say about like the fatigue of things, because like you say, we've been doing music for a really, really long time, and it makes me wonder about the perspective of the younger generation now coming through, like what their thoughts on AI is and how it fits into that creative process, if at all.
Yeah.
And because there's not going to be that fatigue there. Maybe there will, like 15 years later.
But I guess you might have
like
that flip where
us,
they've been using AI the whole time. They're like, oh, do you know what? I want to make this track more organic because I've been using AI for everything. But I guess that it's a tool like anything else. You know, people are going to use it. Some people aren't. It's just going to, whether it speeds up or it slows things down.
I think there's always going to be that desire for people to draw from on the inspiration of artists and musicians who have always done things. I don't want to say the word traditional, because organic is probably the better way to describe it. There's always going to be people who, the majority, I would like to hope, musicians of the future who will want to do it like Jimi Hendrix did, or they want to do it like Suzanne Vega did, or whatever it is. So like there'll be a portion of musicians in the future who will adopt AI in its entirety and run with it. Okay, whatever. And then there'll be your purists who want to follow in the footsteps of the biggest inspirations. And you know this is decades down the line, you'd hope.
Well, I think the thing is this, that as someone who has ran a recording studio multiple times over the years, you know, and had people in, clients in, the trend I noticed, which is why I kind of got out of it, is that more and more and more as the technology gets cheaper, 90% of the record will be recorded before you get there. You go back in the past, right? Take all these classic rock bands and big artists, right? They'd have a massive advance and they would go and live at a place like real world studios, like a residential studio, and they'd be there for 4 or 5 months, right?
Yeah.
And every day they would go in and they'd just play and they'd write this music and they'd have the time because they had the money in the record industry to be able to do that, right? And what's happened is, as we've transitioned to digital, and all the work money is in touring and not in streaming, because streaming is very small numbers, the budgets have got smaller. So even your big artists, not your superstar artists, but your artists who are getting signed to labels now, their budget will be tiny in comparison to what they had, right? So you don't have these musicians who have a chance to sit in the studio for 4 or 5 months and make a record, where you listen to even things like, take the mid-2000s, like the Kaiser Chiefs, right? So if you know the Kaiser Chiefs, they have the track Ruby, right? If you listen to that track, that is them completely live. If you put a click track to it, it is not on click track, right? That is a live...
I know, I've played along.
It's live, right? But it sounds really tight, which means they've sat there in that studio and they've done so many versions of it, so many recordings, because they would have had the budget to, and they probably stayed at a residential studio, like a real world studio, which you can look up what real world looks like if you have a look online. These residential studios where you basically live there, and that used to be the norm, right? Is you had a big record deal and you would get an advance to be able to go and do your recording, right? You'd go there with your band and you would basically have enough money for everyone to earn and also pay the studio and pay the producer and you know, whatever deal you do, right? That has basically shrunk, right? I was finding that when I was running the studio, that most people who would come into the studio, when I first started doing it years ago, we'd do a whole record start to finish. And sometimes that'd be even be writing the song with them, right? And then as over the years, the tech has got cheaper, so they can do it at home, they'd be turning up with 90% of the record done, because they'd do it at home and all they wanted was drums and vocal because they couldn't do it at home. So they'd turn up to the studio. So you, as a studio owner, you can't run a studio when you're only working on the last 10% of everyone's record, and no one has the money to do it like the old days. So I think unless you're a big artist and you already have the funding, like Foo Fighters did that live to tape, right? They did it all to tape, right? That kind of thing you can only do if either you've got a load of cash or you're a superstar,
100%,
right? And I think that age of that is gone, and because now everything is smaller and the budgets are tighter, AI tools are going to be beneficial, because it's not about the music, it's about turning it around. Depends on what it is, right? If you are making music for yourself as a hobby, then make it completely itself. But if you're trying to run it as a business, and the music business is a separate thing to being a musician and in the music, then you need AI tools. Well, I'm not saying you need AI tools, but I think they would help an artist spend less time of that valuable hours that they get a record deal, and they go, right, you've got 4 days to produce 3 tracks, for example. That may be too much, right? We'll call it 1 track. Then every single hour is so key to you getting it right.
100%.
Then I think that's where AI is really going to come in, because, like I say, it can have a placeholder. So if you sat there trying to work out the perfect sound, you'd be like, right, make me a X that does X, and it just sits there and you go, oh, I really like the vibe of that. Let's use that, but let's change it, right?
Yeah.
But it lets you get that base level straight away, quick, to get things started. And I think that the problem is the pressure on artists going forward is the music is so throwaway these days. It's throwaway.
It is.
We've gone from albums to singles, right? And now we've gone from singles to TikToks, which are like 15, 20 seconds, right? So now all you need to make is a hook.
Yeah.
You don't even need the whole rest of the song.
But along with all of that, I think over time it builds and it builds the fatigue of things, like people, and I think the same can be said of like AI. Like, people see through the AI slop that's online, and the fear of, if you're talking about like stupid graphics that you see like on your feed, like people,
they'll understand it.
Yes, they're getting like more convincing, but like further down the line, there's just going to have to be like more education in terms of like detecting it, I think. But it's what you said about the whole that it's sad that idea of like going into the studio for like, even if it's like a month, to completely immerse yourself in whatever that record is, and it's all about the experience that you have as the artist in that moment writing whatever it is. It's really sad to me that is now a romanticized idea.
It is that,
and is inaccessible to, I think, a lot of musicians, even in younger generations now, who probably aspire to achieve that and have that, but at the same time, having the accessibility to have all the tools you need, and be effectively a bedroom producer, and have the means to create a record that can just sound just as good as whatever's on the radio. I think that is a positive
really good
thing.
It is, yeah.
But at the same time, that also opens up the floodgates for everyone to do it, which is a good thing. But also, there's more saturation, there's more noise, and on top of that, you then have like platforms like Spotify, who are just allowing AI music to flood their platform.
Yeah, and it's harder algorithmically for you to get.
It is.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest, even pre-AI, I think unless you took out a bank loan, for upcoming artists, that dream has been dead for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer. As in, going to a studio and recording your record, if you didn't take a massive loan out to do it, right, that dream's been dead for a long time.
And you're talking about a very small percentage of people who have the money to do that. The grand majority of artists who are coming up...
Well, they're struggling artists, aren't they?
Struggling artists, yeah.
You hear these stories around the... these classic records where they're like, oh, we decided to put the guitars in a cupboard and record them in there because they sounded cooler, because they had the time to experiment.
Yeah.
You just don't have that time anymore.
I remember...
Not in a studio.
Yeah. I remember the very first album that I ever recorded was with you, and we used to do things like... do you remember warming up the cymbals with the kettle? Yeah. They weren't our cymbals, and we were kind of experimenting with the sound of them.
I found if you boil a kettle and then you pour it on the cymbal, you get about 4.5 minutes.
Yeah.
The cymbals sound really bright and really cool. So if you've got, basically, don't do it on good cymbals. If you've got cheap cymbals, cheap hi-hats and cymbals, and you boil a kettle and you pour it on them, they sound really nice. They make cheap stuff sound really nice.
Yeah.
So if you're in a studio and you didn't really have, high-end kit, it's a way of doing it. Because they're cheap cymbals anyway, who cares if you boil them, right?
I wonder what the science of that is.
I don't know, but it used to sound really cool. And I used to find all these little tricks when I had the time to find these tricks. And I think that...
I love the idea of us like running away to a cabin for a month and just like writing a record.
Yeah, it'd be great.
It would be great if we had the money to frickin'
Well, when?
do that.
It's the time
but
as
then
well,
also,
that's the problem, yeah.
we've got a treehouse with everything we need, so why not just do it?
Yeah.
But again,
you're in a good position
Yeah.
with what you do because
Yeah.
you've been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
And you're at the point where you have this studio and
That's
you can come
it.
in and all of my old studio kit is all here.
And
all the rap board, all the outboard.
I also think people do look at this space and think, well, you've obviously got everything. You've obviously got money, and the point of it is actually all of this stuff has been a 16, 17-year-old grower of like acquiring stuff and
building it. Yeah.
And sometimes it still doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's analog kit.
But
yeah.
I think I feel I guess a level of fear for younger generations, especially when I think about like what was accessible to me when I was at school as a musician, and what is still not accessible.
But I think that the AI tools are eventually going to make it easy for those people, and then they might get the opportunity to be able to do it like this, But I just think that I think it is I think in a way it's a necessary evil that has to happen. I think that
okay, you say it's a necessary evil. The other whole point around this is like you talk about it drawing inspiration from rock bands, like you said earlier, but one of the biggest issues, which we haven't talked about yet, is where is it pulling that data from? It has to be from existing material.
Of course it is. Yeah.
And it's like the three of the largest record companies in the world are trying to bring.
Well, I think
they're trying to crack down on these companies that are farming, like anybody's music who's out there in the world.
Yeah,
but I just don't think
any new tech, no matter what it is going to ask for forgiveness, right? You take Uber. Uber's a perfect example, right? Uber basically did the taxi model. Most cities, like London, you have to have a license to do a taxi, right? Uber just went and did it, right? That's what a lot of these tech companies do, right?
And ask for forgiveness
later. They just take the data or they take the thing and they just do it. And then over the years, when they're big enough, they then try and pay for it. That's basically what's happening with AI right now in music, is they've just taken everyone's libraries. They've not admitted to it, but we all know they've done it, right? And eventually it's going to catch up with them, but they're hoping that by the time it does, they have the cash to be able to pay for it.
It's wild that process has taken so long to catch up with them. In my eyes, I'm like, how is it that the largest record labels in the world that control every major library, right? How is it that they can't even catch up to these new platforms that are popping up?
They're barely caught up with YouTube. They're barely caught up with just having, from live streaming, right?
Yeah.
They've not even caught up on live streaming yet. And how long's live streaming been around?
Yeah.
At least 15 years, right?
Yeah.
And
there's been drops of by the way...
They haven't even solved that problem, right?
Yeah.
AI is so new in the grand scheme of things that by the time they're dealing with this problem and they've got a solution, it's going to be 15, 20 years and there'll be a new tech that's there, right? There's always going to be challenges.
I think a big point of this is that it comes down to the value of just music, and I think songs as commodities as well. It's like, it's very, I guess, like you said earlier, like, unfortunately, in the world we live in now, music seems to me that people... It's a throwaway.
It's throwaway.
It's not for all of us who are like intensely into our music and are deep music lovers and stuff like that.
General population.
And purists, but general population, people who listen for convenience, music is throwaway. And then there's the other side. There's the other side of the coin where there's people in the world who are piling their passion into what is effectively a 3-minute song, blood, sweat, and tears, and then the listener on the other end is like, cool, what's next?
But this is the difference, right? Is that this is why I'm saying it's the difference between a hobby and a business.
Yes.
See, a business is always going to take the most efficient path to success.
Yeah.
To do it properly.
Yeah.
If you want to do it as a business, you need to be prepared to have the cash to be able to go to a studio. If you want to do it quickly and churn it round and be hitting the views on TikTok, right? You're going to use a tool like AI. It's going to happen, right? It's the way everything is going to be eventually. I'm not saying it's the right way, but I'm saying that that's what's going to happen naturally, because anytime there's money involved with it.
Oh, you're saying that in the near future, more people will lean on AI for a quicker turnaround.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the more tracks you have out, the more chance you have that one's a success.
The more you stay on top.
The more you stay on top of the competition.
Yeah.
Every time you're away in the studio writing.
I think for people as well. I think for me, it comes down to the moral question of, do I want to do that tomorrow?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, no.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's a difference here between a hobby and a business.
Yes.
Right. If you were running it as a business and the idea is to make money out of music, right, you're going to have to follow whatever the trend is and whatever advantages you have. Not saying there can't be outliers who make the old model work, but as that new model changes, people are going to be left in the water in the old model, right? It's going to happen. It is what's going to happen. And then eventually what will happen is there'll be a go back to the old days. Someone can do a PR campaign and go, oh, but I did everything traditionally. So, and then that becomes a thing because you've gone through, everyone's bored of the modern way. I guess it's kind of like, if you take a piece of memorabilia, I don't know, think of a piece of memorabilia.
Well, like a music memorabilia?
Yeah, it could be
like Prince's guitar.
Let's say, like Prince's guitar, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We have Prince's guitar, yeah? And let's say you can have someone recreate the exact same thing as Prince's guitar. And he can 3D print. Let's say we have a 3D printer that can 3D print Prince's guitar. And it's a perfect replica of the two, right?
Yeah.
They're both identical, but one was played by Prince and did the records.
Yeah.
And one is a perfect replica, right? Some people are going to buy the replica, but everyone knows that the original has that sentimental value to it. But the actual things are exactly the same.
There's always going to be demand for both.
Yes, but what I'm saying is they're both exactly the same. They're both a guitar that looks identical, but one has the history and the knowledge behind it that this was played by Prince. I don't know if this is a good analogy or not.
Yeah.
And one is a perfect replica of that original. And I just think that they both do the same. Okay, let's say it's like you bought it to play it. They both can play guitar. They're both guitars. They both do the exact same function, except one was, I want to say crafted the same, but has that history into it. I don't know if crafted is quite the word. Maybe
I know what you're getting at.
You see what I'm sort of getting at, is that maybe there is eventually the model of you're making music organically is, and people understand that, but I do think the market will be smaller for that. But I'm not saying it's not impossible, but your general population are going to listen on TikTok, listen to a song, go, oh, that's cool, swipe. That's cool, swipe, right? But you're
saying that they'll settle for the replica.
Yeah. Because a replica is easy to produce.
So what I'm taking from what you've just said is that there will be pools of people who will always be drawn and maybe actively will seek out the historical artifacts. The music with the soul that's been made by the human. And then there's also your pool of people who are too busy to, I don't want to say too busy to care, but like
it's not on their mind, or they're not thinking about it.
Yeah, they're living their life and look at what's accessible to me. Oh, that's cool. And then it's just a kind of okay.
I think it's like,
I think that's a really good analogy to think about. Anyway,
online attention is the most valuable currency.
It is
really right, as in attention of people is the most valuable currency, and so. If your goal is to get attention, and you can get generally, the more you put out there, the more attention you will get, because you have more chance of people seeing it. People will go with the attention, the quick, easy route, but you will have pockets of people who really like a creator for what they do, and will follow that creator. And I think that there are business models that, luckily, in the last 10 years for independents, I mean, you're a perfect example of this, have been able to forge a career around making something that you have a fan base of dedicated people who love what you do, and they help you fund that project, right? And you can make a living from that, right? And I think that will still exist. But I think that the mass market model, like anything, it's like if you, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if you wanted to make a pop record and be like a pop star, you still had to have all the money and resources and contacts, right? There's no difference today than there was then. The only difference now is you can easily do marketing.
And it's all scaled.
Yeah, it's all scaled. Yeah.
Everything's scaled.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really interesting conversation to have.
Sorry,
we've had this conversation a million times.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to talk about and for people to hear.
We've gone off on a lot, and there's not long left.
It's fine.
What did you want to go through?
So I was going to ask you what you think about. I don't know if you've seen. I mean, they've been popping up on my feed. These videos. There's not Labubus. Okay. I can say it now. Okay. These videos have been popping up from Sora, which is, I want to say, some companies' video.
OpenAI. Yeah.
OpenAI.
Same as ChatGPT.
Okay. So the videos that have been popping up in my feed are Jake Paul at my graduating from the university that I graduated at Coventry University. I saw that one the other day. Basically, I'm getting all this Jake Paul content where people are placing him in different places, and because it's Jake Paul, people are like leading into it, because I don't know, but I think it's just so creepy. That the other thing I've seen is, I think it's Robin Williams' daughter put out a statement saying, please stop sending me AI generated videos of my dad. I don't want to see them. He certainly wouldn't have wanted it.
Yeah.
That level of like the thought that AI can animate somebody who you've lost is a really unnerving, unnatural thought.
Yeah,
and a horrible thing.
But those tools have been around in a non-AI form for a very long time. In CG of a character, of a person.
Yeah.
Even face matching or whatever the tech used to be called.
But
the instantaneous of it is what makes it strange. I think it's a great concept.
And the access as well.
The access. I think it's a great concept for someone like Jake Paul, because Jake Paul's basically going everywhere over the internet, and he's not having to lift a finger. People are promoting him.
Yeah.
Good or bad, doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
I mean,
his name's getting out there, and he's in a Coventry University.
He's probably sat there like, great, crack on.
It's more. I guess the question from their side is, there's an IP to his face and his character.
Yeah. And
how does he benefit from it? And I'm assuming he has some deal with the company or whatever. But that's the only bit, is that people could go and take Mickey Mouse or whoever they want as an IP,
I guess,
and they can use that, right?
That's the question.
The copyright.
Like, what do they have? I think the point is, they don't have permission from anyone to do any of these things, right? And
but also take the music industry, right? From a publishing point of view, it used to be back in the day that if you wanted to cover a song, you had to get permission of all the people on the publishing rights who wrote the song, right? Yeah. Then when the internet came along, everyone just did covers and no one asked permission.
Yeah.
Right? And that's been going on a long time. And generally, the reason I think publishing are not as harsh on people doing the covers is because the publishing rights is such a smaller percentage than the recording rights. Mm-hmm. The recording royalties, it's easy to look at the waveform of a track and match it with someone else, right? If they're doing the actual recording, the recording rights. But the publishing rights is in the songwriter.
If anything, it's an additional income stream for the publishing, because it's user-generated content where they now flag your song and say, oh, we've realised that you're covering a song by our artist.
These days,
let's share the revenue.
Yeah, but it never used to be.
Yeah.
As in, like, people, as soon as digital DSPs released to anyone, so your iTunes, your Spotify's, anyone can upload anything to one of those, right? You pay your £10 to upload your track or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't know what a DSP is, it basically allows you to get your tracks on these platforms. As soon as that opened up to the world, right, you had people covering songs straight away. Yeah. And I guarantee you, people were not getting permission from the rights holders to do that. They were just doing it. I think that copyright rules are going to have to reflect and change. I think it's going to be hard to keep an IP secure in the future.
I think we're already there.
We're already there. I mean, the amount of people that that get Star Wars characters in Unreal Engine and make YouTube channels around Star Wars content
that look great,
that look really good, and they'll have stormtroopers who are 3D rendered, but they won't have Disney's blessing. It's Disney, isn't it? Of course they won't have Disney's blessing on it, and they're probably I don't know how it works from a rights holder point of view, but I think that it's going to get harder and harder for them. But at the same time, you know, should it all be? I mean, if you made a character and that was like your living, was you created this world or character, you want to make that the thing that you can live off. There's obviously only so much everyone needs to actually live, right? And then over that is anything. And when a big corporation owns that IP, no one in the world's crying for them when someone uses it as an AI, right?
Exactly, right.
So, but they're going to go after them. But there's just so many. I remember years ago speaking with a guy who, this must have been about 2007, 2008. Yeah. And he used to own a t-shirt printer company. Okay. And he had licenses from Disney, like all the big IPs, right? And he was telling me he used to pay Disney £1 million a year for the license to be able to print Disney characters on a t-shirt, right? And he had one of the most popular t-shirt websites in the UK, loads and loads. He used to make millions and millions of sales. Mm-hmm. Millions of pounds of sales on it. And he found that what happened was these companies in China, this must have been about 2004, 2005,
Yeah.
were printing Disney characters on T-shirts. So he goes to Disney and goes, well, I'm paying you £1 million a year for the license.
yeah.
You better deal with this to Disney.
Yeah.
So Disney went and tried to take it down.
Yeah.
As soon as they did that, another one popped up. They
Yeah.
tried to take it down, another one popped up.
Yeah.
And he knew at that point, there is no way I'm going to do it. And he sold his business and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he said that the value of that company after he sold it dropped off a cliff.
Yeah.
Because as it was easy to mass produce IPs without, because it got to a point where Disney went, well, we can't do anything.
They're just constantly having to chase
And,
them.
and I think that you're just going to have this, that they have to they have
Same
to show
thing with
face.
Pokemon and Nintendo, right?
Yeah, they have to
all of the
Yeah, I think in a way they have to show face, because
Yeah.
if you were like, oh, anyone can use this, then people are going to take advantage. But if you make it look like you mean and you're going to sue them, which you're probably not, then people are less likely to take the risk.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's an interesting one how it's going to play out.
Yeah, weird. We've got our very first listener question that I
Okay.
thought I'd insert because
Let's do it.
it's
Is that what we're going to do at the
on-
end of every one?
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
we could take at least one listener question because I think we could probably talk on one question for quite a bit.
Okay.
But because this is about AI, Jamie has asked, what piece of technology makes you feel really uneasy or gives you the ick? Do you know what the ick is?
Yeah.
What gives you the ick?
Technology.
Yeah. What makes you feel like, oh, I'm not sure?
I think that if you've not done this before and you are a user of an AI, like an LLM, like an open AI, like a chat GPT,
Right.
as in like the chat style, ask it, just type the question, ask, what do you know about me? Just do that, right? If you've never done it before, just say, what do you know about me? That will scare you a little bit.
Do you have to have been using that AI
For a bit of time.
while?
Yeah, a bit of time. If you
Right.
have an account, you've been using it, right?
Okay.
And you're listening to this and you've been using an AI for
Cool.
different things, just message it and say, what do you know about me? And just
If
look
you've
at the
given that
response.
AI your name at any point, then surely it can troll the internet.
Well, just all I'm going to say is just try it if you've not done it before.
Or don't.
Or don't. Or don't. That is weird.
It
and
is-
it's a bit freaky.
Yeah, have you done it?
Yeah,
What did it say?
everything. It knows everything.
Be careful of this guy.
Be careful. Be careful. Be very careful. I think the thing for me with the AI, the way I always explain it is, I see your chat GPTs. It's like having an apprentice who has knowledge in every subject in the world, pretty much every subject in the world.
But they're still going to make mistakes.
Well, it's not about making mistakes. It's their knowledge level is apprentice level.
Right.
So they may have a broad understanding of every single topic, but as soon as you dive into the detail, they fall over. That's
Okay.
how I find AI, right?
Okay.
So I will use AI to work out things that I've never done before. As
Right.
in, I get asked about, people come and ask me loads of stuff all the time. And if I'm not sure what it is, sometimes I'll look it up. And I now will use AI sometimes to do some research.
Yeah.
But the AI knowledge level, it's like, for me, I would say if I was a Mastermind, you know the TV show Mastermind?
Yeah.
If I was on Mastermind, my topic of subject would be audio engineering,
Okay.
right? Because I know that very
Yes.
well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I can talk to you about frequencies and everything along those lines really, really well. I really, really, really understand that subject to a, pretty extreme knowledge,
Yeah.
right? So if I was on Mastermind, I could do that, right? So when I talk to an AI about that stuff, but I get into the heavy detail,
Yeah.
it cannot cope,
Yeah.
right? But if I talk about it as in general practices, everything that comes back.
It will come back at you with the most basic suggestions. You're like, no.
Because you've got to remember, it's been trained off the world's knowledge. Sometimes it's internet, I don't know, everywhere, dictionaries, encyclopedias, all that knowledge where it's been trained. So it's always going to give you the most obvious answer. Yeah, because
Some
that's
answer from Reddit.
well, that is the problem, right? If
Yeah.
you put the wrong information online, depending where it reads, it will
Yeah.
give you that. But the knowledge level it has, because people see it as being very clever and having lots of knowledge, but all its knowledge is base level.
Yeah.
It doesn't have specific level, and I'm not saying that won't happen in the future. And the new ChatGPT 5. I might be wrong here. It's like you go in and ask it a question, and it has a wide knowledge base. And then after your question, it basically goes, "Oh, use this part of the library," and now it's more knowledgeable in that section. And then when you ask it, it can basically go down, because instead of having to run and you ask it a question and it runs it across the whole knowledge base, which costs
Yeah.
more money because there's more compute time.
Right.
It now knows that we're talking about sound engineering. Right, we're just going to get the area we know about sound engineering, and now you're
So
talking
we're
about
not going to hallucinate and talk about fucking
You got it.
waterfalls or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons, and it also
Yeah,
is
that
cheaper
makes
to run.
sense. Right.
So I think like
It's cheaper to run, it's less computing power to be pulling from lots of different places all at the same time.
I think so. It's something like that. I might be wrong,
Yeah.
so don't take my
Wild.
word for it. But it's something along those lines. And I think that if you're a knowledge expert in a subject,
Yeah.
like you really know a subject well, talk to AI and start getting into the detail, and it will start to fall over if you ask it questions.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have that perspective of independent study.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It hasn't got. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, it's not a human with a soul.
It's not human with
Just
a soul.
saying.
No. A lot of people I know have names for it, like a human name. Like,
What do you mean?
I got a friend who calls it Charles. Charles.
What, the AI?
Something. Yeah. For ChatGPT, it's Charles something. If he's listening, he'll know. Yeah.
Why?
I know a few people though that have a name for it, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just ask Charles." You know.
I'll just
I
ask.
quite like that.
I'll just ask Greg.
I do like personifying an object like that, as in making it feel like. Remember when we used to tour?
Yeah.
And every flight case had a name.
Yeah.
And we had a flight case called Jeremy.
That made sense because all the flight cases looked the bloody same. It made sense to be like, oh, grab Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stick that inside Jeremy, you know, or get some of them from outside of Jeremy.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, everyone would know, right?
Yeah.
I quite like that. I think it's easy to
That's
remember.
functional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Piece of tech that gives me the ick, makes me feel uneasy. I think everything that we've just talked about makes me feel pretty uneasy.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of steps on the toes of like the creative stuff makes me feel a little uneasy, but also I want to keep an open mind as to how it could be beneficial for some people in the future. But I think it's the meta glasses.
The meta glasses.
That's what gives me the biggest.
What part of it? Is it the camera?
It's the intention of some people with them. I think is what in the right hands, in your hands, you're going to use them for like
I'm going to use them for good, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're going to be like Clark Kent in your meta glasses and use them for good. But some people would go out into the public and stare at strangers who don't want to be surveilled. Right.
Yeah, but there's already a lot of cameras in the public.
I know, but people don't want to be dragged into a piece of content online that they've gone shopping at Sainsbury's and they're suddenly pulled in, and some kid is staring at them with these big black rimmed fucking things.
But those prank channels have been around for a while, so ages on YouTube.
I get it.
Right? You're in a public space. That's
I get
what'll
it,
happen.
but the actual act of putting on these glasses and going out and knowing that not everybody you're going to confront understands what that is. There's a bit of unease there where I'm like, that's a little I don't know.
I think with everything in the world, you're going to
if you go up to somebody, you've got a camera, and you say, ask their permission or whatever, or ask their permission afterwards, or however they do their thing, right? But if you walk into an establishment, you're about to order a pizza and you've got meta glasses on and you're actually doing a review, and you don't know if these people are disclosing that information, but just the thought, the invasion of privacy, that gives me the ick.
I think
big time.
I think with any new tech, most things, there's always going to be a small percentage of bad actors out there, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And it's the case with everything. It's the case with driving.
Yeah.
Right? It's the case with everything.
Yeah.
It's always going to be the same. I'd have them right now if the battery life was longer.
Would you?
Yeah, they're just not long enough. I have to wear glasses all the time. Why do I want them dying after 4 hours?
That's true.
Can't be dealing with that.
Well, I want to hear about this controversial thing that you're going to talk about in the After Dark episode.
Let's get over to it then.
All right then. If you guys want to join us, hop on over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Emma McGann. And thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Kinda Wild. Emma here to tell you a huge thank you if you've been listening in to the podcast every single week. We are loving bringing these episodes to you. If we're not nattering in front of a camera and a microphone, we're doing it at home between ourselves alone anyway, so good to hear that you guys are enjoying. If you can't get enough and you want a little extra dose each week, join us over on my Patreon, where we're bringing you Kinda Wild After Dark, a little extra mini pod where we continue the conversation. Thanks, and tune in next week.